Hi, my name is Ashley. Welcome to episode 11 of the Paper Crane Yarns Knitting Podcast. I am the dyer behind Paper Crane Yarns, which can be found on Etsy, on Instagram, and of course here on YouTube. I'm coming to you from my dye studio here in Alabama. I also make project bags and soon to be some other notions. Today is Tuesday, November 16th, 2021. It's been about another month since my last podcast, and I do want to quickly go over why. So first of all, thank you for tuning in today. Hopefully you'll stick around for all of the knitting, but I do have to kind of address one thing real quick. It's a very difficult thing, but okay, here we go. The day that I posted my last podcast, my Rhinebeck episode, I got the news that my best friend passed away very unexpectedly. And I'm not going to go into any kind of details about why, I have respect for his family and his, just privacy, but it was very unexpected, and he was my best friend, and also my number one supporter. So this episode is sort of dedicated to his memory and to kind of honor him. I'd actually mentioned him on the podcast before when I was talking about how my husband and I roast our own coffee and how he got us started in that. So yeah, I've talked about him before. He was the first person to ever buy my yarn. He was cheering on my business from start, well before I started. We've been friends for nearly a decade, and he was always there for me, always the most supportive person in every decision I wanted to make, professionally and personally. And yeah, he was like that for all of his friends. There were so many people who were lucky to know him. He watched every one of my podcast episodes, which was so funny because he doesn't do any kind of knitting. He was a computer science kind of guy, and yeah, just funny, but so supportive. My husband and I very much cherished him and always will. But yeah, I don't want to go on too long about that. Again, definitely taking some time for myself and gonna keep pushing forward because, again, he was such a supporter, and I know that was what he wanted. That was one of the last conversations we actually had, was about us being so proud of one another for the accomplishments that we were working so hard for and the things that we had succeeded in. And so I'm going to honor that memory and push through. Okay, so thank you for listening to that. I kind of had to get that off of my heart because it's difficult to be on social media and to keep up like a presence, which I've never really been one to force. I'm sure you probably have noticed that about me by now if you have been with me since I started. But a little transparency I think is good because it's important to remember that we're all human, and every one of you, each and every one, has been so supportive and kind to me in this whole journey, so to speak, and that means the world to me, especially in times like this. So I just thank you all for all of the kindness that you always show me. Okay, I'm gonna try not to cry, but it's gonna be hard to keep going and to post these episodes and then not expect to get some kind of text message from my friend. His name was Jerome, but it's going to be hard not to get text messages about him, laughing about different things that I said or what have you. So, yep, thank you guys for bearing with me during all of these difficult times. I really appreciate it. But you're here for knitting, so knitting it shall progress into. Difficult to segue out of something like that, but the show must go on. So I have a lot of works in progress to show you. That's primarily what I have to show you. I do have 2 tiny finished objects, which I will show you, I suppose, later on, but I'll get started with my works in progress. My first work in progress is my Birds of a Feather shawl by Andrea Mowry, and I think I'm a little bit over the halfway point, if not maybe a bit farther, and I've put it down since to work on some other projects, but I have been loving this knit. It's gotten pretty huge. So this is being knit out of 2 different yarns. They're not held together or anything, but you take turns with each section. This mint section is my hand-dyed yarn. This is a Merino single base, fingering weight in my sea thing colorway. It's mint with speckles of sort of golden brown. My yarn moved the camera. And the other yarn is a silk mohair. This is the Purl Soho Tussock in the pink fog colorway, which was a leftover yarn from my Sheer V sweater by Jessie May. And my progress keeper, my stitch marker, is from Grizzly Knits, some little gemstones that kind of match my project. So yeah, this has gotten very long and I'm very excited to get to wear this. I'm hoping to have it done before the cold season is over, which I still have a few months, and I don't see why I wouldn't get it done. But it is starting to get big enough that I can actually try it on. And yeah, this thing is like a cloud, not the pattern, like a cloud. It is so cloud-like. It's very light and yeah, just lovely. It's very soft and dainty. And the colors were sort of just things that I had in my stash. If I were to have purchased yarn with this project in mind, I would have chosen a pretty different color palette. I wanted to do some, there's a colorway that Dragon Horde yarn makes. I can't think of what it's called, but it's a mixture of different cool shades of brown, and I wanted to pair it with either a smoky gray or smoky brown mohair, but maybe I'll make another one in the future. So this is going really well, if I can get my hands back on it. The needles that I am using are, okay, so the needles I'm using were my Hiya Sharps, my interchangeable needle set. And this is using, I believe, a 3.5 millimeter. So I just had to get new needles because I cast on a new project. Okay, a US 6 4 millimeter. I had to swap it over to some fixed circulars that I just ordered. These are ChowGoo. And yeah, I've been really enjoying these. I think they're pretty comparable to my Hiya. It's nice that they're fixed circular because while I love my Hiya interchangeable set, those are my favorite needles that I've ever used. The joins sometimes do come unscrewed a bit while you're knitting, and when you have a project this delicate, when the stitches get into the join, it's really frustrating because it's basically screws, so they're toothy and they hang on to the yarn. And so this has been nice for this more delicate of a project. I think I'll try to use fixed circulars more in the future for maybe fingering weight. Yeah, there's something about when you knit, you're kind of unscrewing the tip from the cable while you're knitting, and so occasionally you just have to do some fixing, but not a huge deal. So I do highly recommend knitting this project if you're interested in something very delicate, and I love the design. This is the right side you're seeing, so on the camera you can kind of see this ridged spine, but it comes to a very lovely arrow point. And I think you could really do this with all kinds of different colors, and so yeah, it's getting huge. My next work in progress is my Shawlography MKAL by Stephen West, and yeah, by the time I'm recording this, it's really no longer an MKAL. Stephen West has updated the project with all of the finished object photos on Ravelry, so you've likely seen it by now, especially if you've been viewing like the Hot Right Now in Ravelry. There's really no way you haven't seen it because it's been on there consistently since the pattern released, but you know, in case you're not wanting to see it still for whatever reason, maybe skip forward a few minutes. But I will say mine is not done, and I do want to talk about that a little bit. I'm still on clue 2. I'm at the very end of clue 2 on that portion that if you're knitting, you know it has taken forever and a day, or if you've watched other podcasts, you know it takes forever and a day. It's a really easy section. It just goes on and on and on, and I'll show you in a moment. But yeah, due to everything that's been going on, I've been kind of falling behind on other people's podcasts, but from what I have seen, the general consensus is sort of like not necessarily a dislike, but a lot of people haven't been too interested in knitting clue 4, so finalizing the project with that bold striped border, and I'm on the same page. That's part of why I actually have paused knitting this for a couple weeks now. When clue 4 was released, I went ahead and looked ahead. I've done that with every clue, kind of spoiled it for myself. And yeah, I saw that and I wasn't too fond of it. Not in and of itself, but for this particular pattern. And I think a lot of people have already really addressed this, but the way I see it, you've done all this work to create these very intricate stitches and to highlight a lot of stitch techniques and different patterns that all look incredibly fascinating. Clues 1 through 3 just speak to me. I love the shawl as clues 1 through 3. And then clue 4, for my style, I think it kind of takes away from the rest of the shawl. So I know a lot of people have been either binding off after clue 3, so finishing with either the brioche section or those crosses, which I haven't gotten to yet, but so that's one option. I know I'm not going to knit the striped border, and I have seen lots of projects, completed shawlographies where the person did knit the border and it looked amazing, but again, for my color palette and my style, I don't think it's for me. So I'm still trying to figure out what to do. I've never improv'd a pattern to that degree, so I'm thinking I might either try to incorporate a lace pattern, and I have no idea where to source that. I don't have books or anything with just charts or patterns in them to replace it with something like that. But if you have any suggestions, I would love to hear them, or if you have a tactic that you use to complete your shawlography, I would love to know. I'm doing like a research phase to try to figure out what I want to do for my border. So that's where I'm at, but again, I really am in love with this whole project otherwise. Cannot wait to finish it. I think it would look cute with what I'm wearing today actually, so I wish it was done. But it's being held in my Lila Styles project bag, my Labyrinth bag. You've seen this already. I love this bag. This is knit out of all of my hand-dyed yarns, so these are paper crane yarns. 4 of my 5 skeins are Merino singles, and then one of them is a 75-25 fingering because I didn't have that colorway dyed on Merino single, but I haven't been able to notice too much of a difference in the yarn textures or stitch definitions. So here I am so far, and you can see the portion I'm on that everybody's talked about. I haven't picked this up in a while, but I'm pretty sure I'm nearly finished, at least halfway done with this side, and I'm completely done with this side. So, oh, just popped it off of the needles. Okay, so yes, here we are. Oh, I did it again. Okay, I'm not gonna make that mistake a third time. There. Here we are. I guess the cable's not long enough for me to really expand it all the way to show you. But I do find this project to be absolutely gorgeous. This is where you cast on. This is my color A. This is my Chrysalis colorway. Again, on a Merino fingering single. And 3 of the colors I used were just one-offs, so they are not named. And those are all of the purple shades. So my color B, which is this darker border, I don't have a name for that, but I did dye it as a kit to go with these 2 shades. Again, not named, but this one is a light pink kind of lilac, and this one is more of like a berry sort of purple. And then the orange is my Salt Lamp colorway, and this one's on 75-25. I love the way that my Chrysalis colorway, which is the green, makes everything kind of look like it's glowing. I do think this is going to be tremendously gorgeous and so unique. It's already so huge. I do think once I finish section 3 or clue 3, I probably could call it a day, but like everybody else, I was really wanting a huge shawl. I don't have any huge shawls. I am still knitting my spring sampler shawl if you've seen my past episodes, and that one is going to be huge, but that one's just big, horizontal stripes. I wanted something like this, but gigantic. So I don't know, maybe I should do some repeats of some of the earlier sections. Yeah, haven't decided, but please let me know if you have any ideas or suggestions. So yeah, that is my shawlography thus far. I do find it so gorgeous. I've already said this, but I really can't take my eyes off of it. I am so incredibly blown away by the beauty of this pattern and how gorgeous everybody's colorways look together. Like everybody's color palette choices have been tremendous. Like just everybody's doing a great job, so good job. Yeah, I can't wait to wear this. I would love to knit the dog size for my Chihuahua. Not that I think she'd appreciate it, but I would, so that's all that matters, I suppose. So here's a little close-up of some of my details. I love the Chrysalis baubles. I really love this section. These, I think, turned out really nice. I think, so initially when I was knitting my triangle section, I was not seeing them, and I think I might have made maybe a slight mistake. It doesn't really look like triangles the way that others do, and maybe when I block it, it'll look more like triangles, but I think I did make a mistake somewhere up at the top of the section. But yeah, not too bad. And I know I've made a couple of mistakes here, which looks fine to me, but I would occasionally get mixed up with which color I should have been knitting, and then I'd have to regulate myself and get it back on track. So I have a couple spots like this, but I am not stressed. Chrysalis, salt lamp, and my unnamed colorways. These ones are just semi-solids. So that is my shawlography. I know there are something like over 7,000 projects on Ravelry, close to 8,000, so I feel like everybody and their mother is knitting this project, but I would love to know what you guys are doing. Did you start this when it was an MKAL, or were you waiting to see what it would look like when it was done? And if so, how do you feel about it now? Would you knit it? I would knit it, definitely. I know some people are saying they wouldn't have knit it had they seen it, and I am not in that camp. I would definitely knit this in a heartbeat, just omitting that border. So yeah, tell me what you think and what you're doing with yours. So my next work in progress is a very exciting one because I finally have a sweater back on the needles after what feels like months of only knitting shawls. Yeah, I'm a sweater knitter. I love the construction of it. I love how, I just love everything that goes into shaping a sweater, and I do feel like you just learn so much about your body and your sizing every time you knit one. So excited to have a sweater back on the needles. And so this is a sweater I've been planning on knitting. It's been in my queue for a while. It is the Be Thankful Cardigan. I don't have my knitting book next to me, so I'll have to put the name of the designer in the description down below with everything else about this podcast, but it's called the Be Thankful Cardigan. I was planning on knitting it. I'd already purchased wool for it wool that I was considering either knitting, like a Felix pullover or a Felix cardigan or this one. And then I was watching Knit Two Together, which is Maria's new podcast from Woolen Forest Knits with her husband. And she mentioned doing a knit along, like a casual knit along for the Be Thankful Cardigan. So I decided to go ahead and cast on with the wool that I had, and yeah, I've absolutely loved this project. So I'm using wool that I got at Rhinebeck. These are the skeins that I have left. I purchased 6 originally, and I mean, I've mentioned this in my last episode, but at Rhinebeck, it was impossible to get internet service on my phone, so I couldn't look up patterns to see what yardage I needed. But I came really close with buying these 6 skeins, so I might be able to finish my sweater with just 6, but I'm a little bit under the recommended yardage. And usually when a project recommends yardage and I buy that amount, I always have leftovers. So I'm hoping that'll be the case now, but I might have to buy 1 more skein. So this is the Weekend Wool by Green Mountain Spinnery. This is a 2-ply worsted weight. It is, I know it's 100% wool. I know it's a blend, so it doesn't say on here. You can read more about it on their website, but it's definitely a blend of different wools, and I absolutely love it. It makes me think of Brooklyn Tweed Shelter. It's got like that woolen spun, worsted spun kind of quality. It feels very lightweight and sort of fluffy. I have a feeling when this blocks out, it's going to bloom a lot, and we'll see, but that's my guess. This is the Chestnut colorway, and yeah, I love this. I was very happy to get this at Rhinebeck, and I'm very excited to go ahead and get something on the needles with it. My philosophy is I try to work with yarn as soon as I buy it. And, you know, going to India Untangled and Rhinebeck, I came away with a lot more yarn than I ever would normally, so I can't cast on everything at once, but it does feel good to get a project on with this. So without further ado, here is where I'm at. I started this last Wednesday and I've been working on it most days, so this is a very quick knit. I have gotten quite a bit finished already. So let's see, it is knit flat. It's knit back and forth, not in the round. There's no steeking. So far this has been a really easy project. It's my first cardigan, but showing you on camera I think will be a little hard because it is like this. Let's see. This is the back of the cardigan. This is the section I'm working on right now. So this is what I have on the needles. And the needles I'm using are my Hi interchangeables. These are the larger sizes. This is a US 9 5.5 millimeter on my interchangeables. I think I already said that. So yeah, this is the back. I'm a little over halfway done with knitting this section. Before you knit the back, you knit the right front of the cardigan. So this will be the right front, and you knit sort of an interesting side seam, like a faux side seam. So you can pretty clearly see where it is split. So yeah, oh, this is hard to show on camera. After I knit the back panel, I think I'll be going over to the left front. So this is on scrap yarn right now. I am using my little Simply Serving dumpling stitch marker, Parker's Keeper, what have you. Yeah, so I've gotten a ton of this done. I love the ribbing style. I don't want to talk too much about the pattern because of course it is a paid for pattern, but this is not what I would typically have done for ribbing, I'll say that. So it's really interesting, and I think the effect plays off nicely. So yeah, with this being a worsted weight yarn, again, it is knitting very quickly. This has taken me 6 days to get to this point, and that is with taking a couple of breaks some days. So yeah, I feel good about this. I have a camping trip coming up, and I'm wondering if I can get this done beforehand. This wool has a really lovely stitch definition. There's a couple of cat hairs, of course, but if you can ignore those and appreciate the stitch definition. This is just stockinette, and you can, I mean, even from far away, you can really get a feel for each stitch. So I do very much recommend this wool, even if you're not knitting this project. So with this being a cardigan that is not steeked, every other row is a purl row, but with the weight of this yarn, I haven't found that to be too daunting. Those rows do take a little bit longer, but they're no more stressful. Yeah, all in all, this has been a very easy project. So I recommend casting this on. I don't quite know when Maria is ending her knit along. I think she said the end of the year, and it's very loose. Like she said, if we'll end up needing more time, we'll probably add more time, but you do still have time for sure. It's only the middle of November, so I say join. So with this being a button-up cardigan, I did of course have to get some buttons, and I've never added buttons to knitting before, so I am very excited about that. I have worked with buttons with my sewing, of course, but yeah, not with my knitting, so I'm excited. And so the buttons I got for my cardigan are these moons and stars. They're wooden and really, really cute. I think this will be a lovely detail, which I'm all about the details whenever I can. So I'm excited for these. They must be laser cut because they're so precise. They're absolutely beautiful. These were from Etsy. The store is Thread of Life Designs, and they had some other interesting ones. I had a hard time picking between the moons and the fern fronds. My dog, my lab mix, her name is Fern, and I am very partial to ferns. They're one of the most beautiful plants to me, and so I might have to get those in the future for another project, but for this one I thought moons and stars. And they sent a little gift, which is this Queen Bee button, and it's really cute, so I'm gonna use that for something fun. So I can't wait to get that off of the needles and to get to wear it. You know, the shawl oh goodness, the shawl knitting I've been doing recently have been processed knits. I'm not like itching to get them off the needles because I'm really enjoying the process, but this cardigan for me is definitely a product knit. I just want the product, so I gotta get through the work first. Knitting, I only have one other work in progress, and once again, you have seen this. I don't even know how much more work I've put onto this. It's been kind of on pause, like my spring sampler shawl, which I'm going to pick back up once I've gotten something off the needles. I think this is really the longest I've ever gone without a finished object, which is hard. You know, you need that like progress to keep you going, but I know if I just cranked these out, I could get them done. They're just socks, but my cat kind of put a bit of a pause on the project for me, so yeah, I've shown this before, but this is my Berroco Comfort Sock, I believe is what it was called, in the Wanaka colorway. It's just kind of a rainbow stripe. This one's been done for a while. I really want to wear these. These are 50% acrylic and 50% nylon. If you heard the story, I didn't realize that's what I was buying when I bought it, which is my mistake, but I've been pleasantly surprised by the fabric. It's very soft, and I do want to knit more socks, I think, in this, probably. So my other sock is in shambles right now. I left the sock unattended, and one of my kittens decided to play with it, I guess. Okay, so I guess the last thing I did was my heel turn. These are on 9-inch circular needles. That's how I knit all of my socks. These are the Chow Goo red lace 9-inch circulars. So I finished my heel turn. It looks like I need to pick up my stitches now so that I can knit in the round. And this is my yarn now. Thank you, Panda the kitten. This is the other thing. So he, I guess, chewed it off of the ball. And now I don't remember which one I was. So I guess I've got two balls of yarn here. Actually, I think it's all connected. So I have to figure out where he snapped it off. I think it was this one. I think I'm on the blue. I don't want the stripes to get interrupted. So I just have to sit down and take the time to get the yarn back on, get it all flowing again, and then I can finish this sock. And yeah, again, I'm going camping this weekend actually. So I should have time. So that's my very messy little sock right now. And as far as knitting, that is all of my works in progress. My two little finished objects, hopefully you'll be able to see them well. They're still wet because I just blocked them yesterday and they haven't blocked out quite yet. They're still drying. But these are coffee cup cozies. So I knit these as gifts for some family members I'll be seeing this weekend. And I'll have to link the pattern. It comes with many different charts for color work. So it offers 4 different design types for your main color work, and then like your top border and your lower border, there's different color work options that you can mix and match too. So I made a silly mistake when I was knitting this first one, hence the second one. I meant to knit the bats and I knit the acorn instead, and that's okay, but it wasn't what I was going for. It's, you know, for color work, like, I think it's okay. I had to use all scrap yarn, so this is yarn that I used in my Soldotna crop, which is made out of the yarns that were my very first ever hand-dyed yarns. I had a DK weight. My husband gave them to me as a gift, so they were precious stash. So the colors are just kind of what I had on hand. So this was a acorn, and this one was the bat. And this one wasn't perfect either. I regret my choice for the top section here. I should have replicated this bottom one, but not a big deal. You can definitely see the bat though, and I think once this is on a cup, it'll be more distinct. So this one is going to my mom, who I don't think really watches my podcast, so she won't know that. And this will be for my sister-in-law. And if I have time, I'm going to try to knit everybody one before I see them. We'll see. These actually are very, very quick. They took me just a couple of hours between the two of them. So if you want a quick gift to knit, that's a hard phrase. Yeah, work on some of these guys. I have another work in progress that is not knitting, and it's not very good either. So at Rhinebeck, I got my first drop spindle. I have very limited experience with spinning, as in none. So at Rhinebeck, there was a person there doing demos on an e-spinner, and she was kind enough to let me try, and I very much loved the process. So I got to sort of play with it for a little while, and then I ended up getting this drop spindle, and this is a unicorn drop spindle. Very beautiful. I believe it's an acrylic, probably resin mold that they use, and a wooden spindle. And I'm using fiber that I got from Rhinebeck as well. And let's see, so this is what the fiber looks like. So yeah, if you didn't see my Rhinebeck video, or if you did but don't remember, I got like a big bag of mixed fibers for a discount. So I didn't like hand pick each of my colors, but I got a really amazing deal from a somewhat local farm, and I believe they're in North Carolina, so that's pretty cool. But so I decided to practice with this colorway because out of all of them, it was sort of my least favorite. But not to say I don't like it. I just wanted to save the other ones for maybe when I start to pick it up a little bit. I'm just learning from YouTube videos, as we all do with everything. But I believe this one is just wool. I originally thought that it maybe had alpaca in it, but when I looked at the label again, I believe it was just wool, sheep's wool. I don't remember which breed though, maybe Tunis. So this is what I've been working on. Yep, it's definitely very thick in most places, thinner in some. I know that's pretty normal, and again, I'm just learning, but I love using this thing. You know, I'm excited to get to the point where I'm actually good at this, so I can very much appreciate the final result. But the process of using a drop spindle is really fun. It's not, for me, the easiest thing. I think using the e-spinner was a lot simpler. But, you know, spinning itself is not the hard part to me. So drafting is a little bit difficult, and getting, I guess, attaching my wool back on can be tough because I don't quite have drafting and spinning down yet. I think once I get a little bit better at the smaller details, the overall process will be simpler. But if you've been wanting to try this, I definitely recommend it. So I think I did this the weekend after I came back from Rhinebeck, and I haven't picked it up since with everything that's been going on. So I've probably already lost everything that I learned. But yeah, I'm excited to finish this one. There's still a good bit of this left. I have no idea if I'll be able to make anything with the yarn that I've created, but at the very least I can knit like a gauge swatch basically and put it in a frame and hang it in my yarn store and pretend like it's art. So yeah, been loving using my drop spindle. Speaking of things that I got at Rhinebeck, the favorite thing that I got probably was the mohair silk I picked up from Lamb Strings. That was actually at India Untangled, and I told the story, but when I first got to India Untangled and walked in, they were like maybe the second booth, the first one that I went into, and I bought something immediately, and it was this, and it still remains my favorite purchase. But the whole time I was there, I couldn't find something to pair it with to actually knit a sweater. So I had my eyes open for a coordinating Merino singles is what I was really wanting, and I've never found anything that I thought would work, so I decided to dye something. And that's not the first time I've done that. When I knit the Knights Who Say Knit by Lyrical Knits, at the time I couldn't get one of the Miss Babs kits, so I dyed yarn to look like one of the kits, and that worked really well for me. So I did that again in this instance. I did go to their website. I did go to the Lamb Strings website to try to find this colorway in a corresponding fingering weight, but I couldn't find anything. So I'm not sure if it was a colorway that they don't normally dye and keep in stock, or if they maybe just didn't have any at the time. But yeah, so this was the Click Beetle colorway by Lamb Strings. This is their feather lace. It's 75% fine kid mohair and 30% mulberry silk, 459 yards, 250 grams. Again, the Click Beetle colorway. So this to me is like the most gorgeous color on the planet, and I really wanted to knit a sweater with this. So I decided to dye a couple of skeins of Merino singles. And I think I got the color pretty spot on. So it's a little bit lighter, I think, but the tones and the variegation, I think, is basically the same. So I can't wait to knit something with this. I haven't decided on a sweater pattern. I think this is more than enough yarn. I'll probably only need possibly 2 skeins, but we'll see. Yeah, this was a fun thing to do, just to dye up my own corresponding colorways. And when I finish my Be Thankful cardigan, I think this will be what I have to cast on next, because I've been wanting something in this color. It's like a red, purple, black, just so beautiful, and a deep, deep shade for sure. So I'm gonna have to do some more research and find the perfect pattern to use for this treasured yarn. And the only other kind of future knitting that I have sort of itching to get on the needles, I purchased this Koigu fingering weight at House of Yarn sometime in 2020 when I visited. I got 2 of these 50-gram skeins. One of them I was able to wind up very nicely, and the other one is in a huge tangled mess, which is very sad and very tragic. But I think if I pair the 50-gram skein with some leftovers, and I just grab this one as an example, or as a possibility, I'm going to knit a pair of socks and use this probably black shade, if not something else in my stash, for the contrast, the toe and the cuff and maybe the heel. This was a yarn that I dyed for my Knights Who Say Knit mystery knit along, and this Koigu is very, very pretty. If I remember correctly, it's just a 2-ply wool. Maybe there's some nylon in here, I don't recall. But it's light purple with purple and orange specks. So that's my other future knitting. And that's that for my knitting. Now I'm going to show some things that I made that will be featured in my next shop update. Like I said, I don't have a date in mind yet. I want to finish up some things and increase my inventory before I do a shop update. I do have plenty of stock in my shop currently available for sale, but as far as everything I've been working on currently, like maybe you've been seeing them on my Instagram stories, that stuff is to come, and I will give you a date as soon as I have one. I have not had nearly as much time to work in my shop as I would have liked, but I'm going to grab what I have to show you. So I've got quite a bit so far. Let's see, where do I start? I'll show you the yarn and then some bags that I've been working on. So I will be doing a restock of one of my most popular colorways, which is honeycomb, and this will be on a worsted weight base. These are pure merino, and this is honeycomb. So it is a golden yellow. So far I think I have 7 skeins, so more than a sweater's quantity if you're interested. I've had some people knit beautiful shawls from this colorway, all kinds of things. So yep, I will have honeycomb on worsted, and this is a new colorway on a brand new base. So I am now carrying more tweed, and I'm going to keep increasing my tweed because tweed is one of my favorite types of yarn. This one is a 2-ply merino fingering with Donegal tweed, and the neps for this tweed are rainbow, sort of. They're yellows and blues and pinks. So for this first batch of using this new base, I decided to knit kind of a corresponding colorway. So these are highly variegated, sort of like a dark rainbow. This base it starts off slightly gray or silver, so everything I dye has kind of like a tone of that dark shading. So this is like a dark rainbow. I actually have not come up with a colorway name for this yet, and that tends to happen with me. Part of what I went to university for is creative writing, and I write poetry and sci-fi and all kinds of stuff. And then when it comes to naming my colorways, I find it truly impossible. So these probably won't have a name until the last second. But yeah. So that's all of the yarn that I have right now. I have so much yarn in stock currently, building on my inventory for getting my store open, but most of it can be found on Etsy. I have kind of been slacking off recently with keeping my Etsy up to date, and so a lot of what I have in my shop isn't on my website, so I'll need to go in and add that. I also want to re-photograph all of my my yarn because I feel like the pictures could use some improving, so that's to come as well. So moving on to bags. If you follow me on Instagram, you probably saw I got some really cool fabric, definitely stepping out of the kinds of things I've made in the past, making some more fun stuff right now. I'm just kind of trying to keep myself in a fun mood. So I've got some really fun new fabric. These are 2 of them. These are 2 that I haven't used yet. I have a Mario characters fabric, and this is one from The Mandalorian. This one is sort of like they look like playing cards, but I love the colors in here. So there's that one. And as far as things that I have already constructed, I've got Animal Crossing, which I adore very much. I have not gotten to do anything with the new update, so I'm behind. I kind of have to force myself not to play so that I'll get other things done, but these are some zipper pouches. These ones I think are perfect for socks. They're slightly larger than the ones that I normally use for socks, but if you want something that will comfortably fit, your whole project and some notions, this is a great size. I've got a couple different bases for this one, and I have a nice large project bag that matches. So I'm going to make a few more of these before I put everything up. I love these large bags. This can hold a sweater or a blanket. This one is absolutely gigantic. I've got some contrast fabric in there. These ones are cool because they have this clasp that pulls in the bag from the sides, so you can kind of make this stand up while you're working with it. It'll be hard to show on camera, but it draws in the top of the bag so that, again, it will stand up better. So if you're using it to knit, it won't just kind of flop over on itself. It will support its weight on the side. So yeah, I love my Animal Crossing bags. I also have started working with my my other Mandalorian fabric, and this one's my favorite. It's very pop art style. It's bright and colorful and just really cute. So this one is like a pink bag with a red liner, and I'm going to make a few of these, so this one might end up coming home with me. But I do love this style. And finally, I have one more large project bag that will be available, and this one is using some fabric that's been in my stash for a while that I truly treasure. I think it's gorgeous. So it's just different busts and portraits of forest animals. We've got deer and bears, raccoon, or that's a fox maybe. It's a raccoon or a fox, and flowers. And this one has black and gray details. So this one to me is very elegant. So this will be available as well. I think I'll pretty much wrap it up there. I don't have anything too exciting going on over here other than my camping trip coming up and just trying to get my store prepared and ready to open. I don't know if January will still work as my timeline just because of everything that's happened recently. It's been difficult to just get everything done that I need to. But I'm going to still aim to open in January, maybe late January. And I am talking about turning this store into a actual local yarn store here in Alabama. But I will not discontinue my online sales. You'll always be able to find me online. As of right now, like I said, it's papercraneyarns on Etsy, which will be linked below. But I may eventually open my own website when I have the mental fortitude to deal with that. Yeah, it's hard to start a business and keep it going as an individual, just by yourself. There's a lot that goes into it, and yeah, I didn't go to school for business or anything remotely close to that. I do have lots of business experience from the jobs that I've had, but yeah, starting one yourself, it's much more rewarding, but very stressful and daunting. But no complaints here. It's something I very much treasure, and as I always say, I really thank you guys for giving me the opportunity and the audience to do so. My husband and I are in the process of finally converting our second bedroom to build our Lego city, or our Lego town. Right now, the room is a Star Wars museum, so to speak. Lots of collectibles. It's painted to look like the inside of the Death Star. It's really cool. But we are Lego collectors as well, and we have been in the process of acquiring and building different buildings for our city that we've been planning, and we're finally making it happen. We've been clearing out that room in the center so that we can put in the table we just got, and at that point we're going to start constructing our actual town, and I'm very excited because I've been wanting to do this for a while, and we're finally getting around to it because it's moving into the cold season and our gardening is sort of slowing down. Not our vegetable gardening, but our flower gardens. We aren't outside as much as we would like, so in the winters we kind of transition over to our indoor hobbies, and one of those is, well, of course, knitting, but also Lego building. So that's to come, and I might either share about that on this channel. I don't know if anybody would be interested in that, or I might start a second channel here on YouTube to share our city progress. And yeah, I don't know if you guys have any interest in Lego, but to me it's like the coolest thing ever. So yeah, I'll be sharing about that probably. I did recently finish a book that has been out for many years that is already well beloved, and you've probably heard about it. It's really not my genre, so I'm surprised I loved it as much as I did, but it was just what I needed at the time that I read it, and that is Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. It's so good. Honestly, I was surprised. Not surprised because I've heard she's an amazing writer, but surprised that it was so good to me. I don't like YA usually, and this one really captivated me. It was a lot of fun, and I just got the second one, so I'm going to keep going. I also got her Court of Thorn and Roses book because I know everybody loves that one, so I'm going to try it out. I'm also going to start the Wheel of Time series, so I just got the first book for Wheel of Time. I really don't know much about that one. I believe it's Robert Jordan who wrote that one. Yeah, I'm sure I sound like kind of a noob here because I think everybody has already read all of those things, but I typically read like surreal novels and kind of like poetic literary fiction in novel style. So a lot of Murakami, and there's some other Japanese authors who write similar to that genre. Yeah, I like things that are sort of whimsical and confusing, but intriguing and thought-provoking. And yeah, I'm basically describing books when I say that, so that's not very unique, but I'm sure you get my meaning there. I've been really wanting to read like a New Orleans setting, maybe jazz era novel. I really love jazz music, and something about a novel set maybe in like the 30s through the 50s in New Orleans sounds like it would be a very interesting read. So if you know of anything like that, please feel free to recommend it to me. Yeah, I don't have anything else, so I'm gonna finish this row and say goodbye. Yep, thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Please feel free to like and subscribe this video this channel. Oh goodness, if you're interested. Thank you for sticking around. I really appreciate it, and I will talk to you guys soon. So bye, happy knitting.